Hey everybody, and welcome to the Rock and Roll Farming Podcast. And today I'm heading down to the beautiful Vale of Glamorgan to talk to not just one of my favourite farmers, but one of my favourite people too, Polly Davis. Polly, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Will. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How's harvest going down there in the south? It's going
Yeah,
pretty well up here.
yeah, it's not bad. We started day before yesterday. So yeah, it's going okay. And then we'll do some more today. Probably starting about 11 o'clock, I think. So it's fine. So the first lot's come off and it's about 14%. So
It's
fingers
it's,
crossed.
uh it's wild that we're on target. If all goes well and we're doing any breakdowns, I reckon we won't be far off finished in a week, which is unbelievable for Wales, isn't it? To be
Yeah, yeah,
harvest.
yeah. I think
No.
we're not anywhere near that early. I think because I've got about 50, bit over 50% in spring, so that's a bit later.
Yeah, okay.
Um, and it'll come when it comes. But truthfully, we've been bizarrely quite lucky this year, so we haven't had a drought year like almost the rest of the UK. Even though typically we're in a drought area, so
Mm.
normally, not normally, we every other or every 3 years we do end up with a drought. It's just whatever happened this year we didn't. So I think we're slightly slower. We've had uh, wetter, drier years, drier drought years, and been slightly further ahead. So
Mm. Okay.
see what happens.
Tell me a bit about the area. Are you quite near the coast?
Yeah, so we're just in between Cardiff and Swansea, and we're about 15 minutes off the M4, very near a town called Bridgend, and we farm right down onto the coast. We farm across two tenancies, and uh, it's it's not brilliant ground, but I think all farmers are fussy about their ground. So,
Yeah.
it could be better, it could be worse. I suppose it's typical. It's sort of lowland. Um, it's quite stony. Like one year, my little boy said to me, "Are we growing stones?" I was like, "No,
That
not what
reminds
we're
me,
doing."
reminds me when my dad used to get me and my sister out with buckets picking stones as kids, and they used to say it built character.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, that's yeah. I've spent many years when I was younger doing stone picking.
Mm,
I've got this sort of sand cleaner thing that we sometimes use to stone pick, which is slightly easier, but truthfully, it's just a bit of a nightmare. Like every so often, one goes through in a very expensive tire, so that's always a pain. So,
yeah. And are there you said you're close to Bridgend, are a lot of population centres around there?
yeah. So bizarrely, we're very close. We're about 7 minutes away from Bridgend. We're very near a town called. We're about 20 minutes from a town called Cowbridge, and we're about half an hour from a town called Barry, which everyone
Okay,
knows from Gavin and Stacey.
of course.
We are in quite a sort of more populated area. It's only about an hour and 15 to Bristol from where we are. Um, yeah, we've got a lot of people. We've also, because we're on the coastal path, so have a lot of
Uh,
people walking through the farm. Which depends what day it is, depends on how rational I can be. So
ah,
I got a message day before yesterday from my local running club because I'd the two girls who I recognised were completely not on a footpath. And I said really politely, and for me, I was thinking I was doing really, you're not meant to be there. Then I had a zillion messages from a mum who I knew in the running club going, "Oh, it's my fault they're there. I sent them there. I can't believe you had an altercation. I can't remember what it is. I was like, I was so nice. This was the nicest I've ever been. But I have definitely been less nice. So it really just depends on my mood. But a lot of people, a lot of dogs, and it's uh, it's just a lack of understanding, isn't it, on farming where we are now, I think.
I'm reading a really good book on this at the moment. It's called Uncommon Ground by
Yeah,
Patrick Galbraith, and
yeah,
I've nearly finished it. But yeah, it's a really balanced look at access to land and the countryside, and um, the sort of pros and cons, and the problems for farmers. And yeah, it's really yeah, really interesting book, isn't it? And I think most of us are, I think most of us are very welcoming to people in the countryside as as long as they kind of try to work with us, I suppose. But
yeah. I think you can be. So I think I saw someone speak and say the first person you meet, you're really nice, and then by the time you meet the fifth person that day, they're
mm,
doing something wrong. Your patience has gone. Uh,
yeah,
but I think from a social perspective, I genuinely think people should be allowed onto the
yeah,
farm. Like I do genuinely think that. I just from a practical perspective, I get so upset when I've just split the sheep into two or three groups and then they're all in one group again,
Yeah.
or the cows are in the corn or the silage or any field they're not meant to be in. So it's that sort of and dogs. People love their dogs, and
Yeah.
dog off leads is just a sort of, it's an ongoing battle, isn't it? So
Feels like it's getting more and more a
yeah,
bigger and bigger challenge. But
yeah, definitely.
did you grow up on the farm? Is it your family
So
farm?
yeah, so my dad and my grandparents used to farm around Pontypridd,
Okay.
which is a bit north of here.
Yeah.
And then they moved down from Pontypridd when my dad was 18 and started this tenancy. Um, so half of the farm's on a three-generation tenancy. So hopefully I'll be seen as being eligible to take it on. Uh, I don't know whether you know about the HAs. It's quite ye olde woldy.
Oh yeah, I'm one of them.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, not ye worldy, but my
you know what
farm
I
is to
mean?
say I'm the third on
Yeah.
our three generation one.
So I would be lucky enough if I get it
Yeah.
to be the second. I've got over 13 years experience now farming, so we should tick the box that is a
Yeah.
7 year requirement. But it's yeah. But I haven't been farming forever. I only came back when I was 28, 29. I moved back with Graham when I was 8 months pregnant, which is an insane idea. So,
It's, yeah, I bet it seemed like a good idea at the time though. But
uh,
yeah,
yeah, I just don't know before you have kids what a stupid idea that was. But
no.
uh, so I met Graham when I was in university in Edinburgh, and then we moved down to London together, and I worked in construction in London. Um, And then I worked for the National Trust for a year, and I realised I quite like doing stuff rather than talking about it. Sorry, National Trust. Uh, so I thought I'm gonna.
They're not your landlords, are they?
No, they're not my landlord, so I can get away with saying that. But I do quite like the doing, and that's what farming is all about, really. Came back when I was 20, and I also read Joel Saltan's book, the American guy. And in one of his books he wrote something sensible about it's much better to do it in your 20s or 30s than when you're 50.
Hmm.
Um, so I thought that's quite good advice. Um,
Yeah.
so came back home pregnant. Well, in my head, I was living in South London at the time, or south of London, and I thought I wanted to work for a farm around there. And then
Okay.
obviously we're preggers. Oh, and no one's going to hire me. So the only one who's going to hire me is coming back home and working continuously through my maternity leave. So
So there's a lot there. So did you? So presumably farming wasn't on your radar then when you were a teenager and grown up. Was it?
oh, well, I think anyone who grows up on a farm, you are continuously being a gate at some point through your life. So,
Yeah.
so I was definitely a gate a lot, and then I didn't. I'm the oldest, and I've got a younger sister and a younger brother, and I think I always thought that my younger brother would do the farming.
Hmm.
And my younger brother hasn't done the farming. He is a doctor and he's a very good doctor. But I think when I was 28, 29, I did ring him up and I rang my sister up and I said, I'm thinking about doing farming because I didn't want to step on his toes and
Mm.
it's not a big farm. And if he was genuinely thinking about coming back very soon, then that wouldn't be fair. But I think he was partway through his um, doctor qualifications, which goes on forever anyway. I gave him, and he seemed to be, he was fine with it at the time. Um, so he hasn't suddenly come back to me going, well, I can't believe I'm not a farmer. So he actually said to me recently that, like, I don't know whether he had a couple of beers, but he said, oh, thank you so much for doing it, because I think he would probably have a massive amount of pressure from my dad if my dad
Mm.
was doing it now. So it's a different scenario. So.
Family, this is one of the reasons why I sometimes get very frustrated with the media and politicians when they talk about farmers, farmers this, farmers that, and every family farm is such a different situation, isn't it? Forget even the business, it's the family dynamics and people
Mm.
involved, and not everyone has full control of their business today. It's very difficult at times, I think,
Yeah, it's complicated, isn't it? Family,
Mm,
business and family together is always a complicated mush.
for
So,
sure. So did you enjoy living in London and that kind of life? Did you, or did you enjoy it for a bit and then
yeah,
let it
London's
go?
really I liked living in Edinburgh a lot when I was a
Yeah.
student. And Graham was a tour guide. So he was working. So when
What
we
was it? What was he, I'm a history nerd. What was he teaching
no,
people about?
I genuinely think he was just driving people around Scotland making it up. Like, but he has an alternative view to that. But he's a very good storyteller. And I remember him telling me when we started going out that these fish in the loch was 6 meters, and I went, are you sure it's 6 meters? 6 meters is very big. And this is are we sure there's 6 meter fish in there? You mean 6 foot, or do you mean? And he was like, no, 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 details, details. But uh,
Details, details.
the Americans and everyone loved his tours. So yeah, so but he was working and I was a student, so I know had no money. And so that was really great. So even his money managed. Went out for dinner loads. So I thought he was like the best person ever. And he also cooked quite a lot. So I thought, wow, he's pretty good.
Wow, he's a keeper.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So then you moved to down to London together. Then you said,
Yeah, we moved down to London and we found moving to London is a bit of a bizarre scenario for when you're not from London. It's so big. There's
hmm.
so many people. I moved just before I moved and I got a job photocopying. Really clever. I've got my degree. It was paying really well though, photocopying. And Graham wanted to do something sensible. So he was taking time out because he had some savings. So I was photocopying and he was working out what he wanted to do. And he ended up working in Parliament for one of the MPs, which he really
Oh,
enjoyed. And
cool.
then I managed to get a job. I decided I wasn't going to stay photocopying for the rest of my life. And I decided to get a job working for a project management company, which is to do with construction. So I had this, it was a really interesting job. My degree was in architecture, so it was sort of building stuff. And I remember sitting in one of the meetings with our clients, and our clients were saying, boom and bust, this is how the world works, boom and
Hmm.
bust. They showed it since the 1920s. And they were saying, but where we are right now, can you see that we've just at the top of this curve, but it's not going to go down. It's not going to go down. It's just going to flatten out a little bit and then go up. And then the year later, Lehman Brothers, bang. So it's just
Yeah,
like,
that didn't
why do
age
we
well,
not
did it?
learn this? Why
No.
do we not learn from that experience? But yeah, so I actually ended up demolishing Lehman Brothers, not when people were in it, but so
Wow.
that was my project management stuff. So, but you say that to people who are younger than us, they were like, "What are you talking about?" I said it was quite a
Yeah.
big thing at the time. So yeah, it was so weird. It was a bit of a sort of end of the world type thing. So you walked out and there's everyone just left their computers and boom, it's a bit of a completely surreal, you know, office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, was there I guess you learned how to manage people though and communicate with people, and I guess it must have been a hell of a good learning experience and skills you could bring back to farming.
Yeah, I with jobs, well, any job that you do, I think communication is the most important
Yeah.
thing. Um, I also think you have to communicate with everybody, um, and you have to make sure that they understand what you're talking about. So, what my job would be, when you project manage a project, you have um, mostly a room full of. Hopefully, it's changed, but when I was doing it, mostly a room full of men who are a bit older than you by about 20 or 30 years. And then and they all think what their bit of the project is the most important.
Mm.
And they talk in acronyms. And then everyone else just, instead of asking what the acronyms are, they nod. So you're in these are really expensive meetings, and they're spending like I think the projects at the time were around 300, 400 million, like crazy cash. And fundamentally, you're building a really tall building with lift lobbies and loos.
Yeah.
It's just like it's just there's nothing in it except loads of toilets and a lift. But they just sit around and nod. And so my job fundamentally was in this meeting to go, so can you just clarify what AZPU means for just so we can just check? Because oh, it means that. Well, that AZPU, how big is that? Oh, it's this size. That's not going to fit in this hole. So it's just like, and it's just I did that for I think I did it for 5 years. And then I worked for National Trust, and it's actually very similar. Lots of people who really are excellent and very knowledgeable, but don't understand why no one else understands that their clock is the most amazing thing in the world. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's quite good. I mean, all these people are pretty amazing people. They just maybe a possibly a tunnel vision and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So what was the you mentioned Joel Salatin earlier, but was there like a sort of catalyst moment or there must
I
have been
think
something that changed
yeah.
things?
So I was working. So I worked in London for this guy. The guy's called M3. Then I went for National Trust, and when we were in National Trust, I decided to move, or we decided to move outside London because one day we and Graham were driving to try and get out of London, and we drove for 2 hours and didn't get anywhere.
Oh God.
So that can happen quite often in London.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm just not used to that. I find that quite hard.
Mm.
And there's and that's quite weird. So I thought we should move out of London. So I got this job in National Trust, and National Trust is amazing. They have fantastic amounts of stuff, and their projects and their buildings are incredible. Um, but I think you can possibly get stuck there. And I thought I didn't realize I was pregnant at the time. I'm not sure if I'd made the decision, but I did think because I did think that if I do get pregnant, I would more like to stay there
Mm.
because you've got maternity leave and you've got
Hmm.
security. So I and I thought I think I came home and Dad didn't ask me to be a gate. So I thought, why haven't I been asked to be a gate? So maybe he thinks that my, qualifications, my other qualifications is the way forward. And I thought, well, maybe if this is something I think, I think I met this woman who was at home and she said, oh, it's such a nice place to live down here. And I said, oh, where are you from? She said, oh, I'm from down here, but I live in Birmingham because of my husband's job. I was like, oh, God, I don't want to do that. So I thought maybe I should look into doing farming and seeing whether this is something that I'm interested in. Uh, and I think I've always been a bit interested in it.
Mm.
But I don't know. I definitely didn't have a light bulb moment. And now you're asking me, going back 15 years, having had two kids, I have no idea what made me make the decision.
No, no, I know what you, I mean, your dad, your dad must have been thrilled though, because I'm asking this at the moment because you know my wife Sarah, and we have we've essentially got two plans going forward. We've got a plan for if the kids want to farm, and we've got a plan for if the kids don't want to farm.
Mm,
And at the moment, I'm they're too young to tell really,
mm.
and you know your story is a good illustration as well of that you can think they might not farm, and then maybe they do want to farm, so it complicates it a bit. But
It does, isn't it?
yeah, but your dad must have, I guess, at that stage when you were in London, and he must have thought, well, none of the kids are going to farm, so he must have been thinking about that. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think he probably was in that. And he did have a conversation with the landlord. The landlord said, well, you're not going to get the generation tenancy because none of your kids are going to farm.
yeah,
So he must have had those, so he must have had that in his head. Um, uh, so I think he is, I'm sure he's been quite pleased. Like my dad's not one for telling me, and I have to be ask him really explicitly.
dads of our generation are not, are they? My
I'd,
dad is.
I think I said to him, oh, something I've said to him before, like, are you pleased that George is not farming? And he said, well, George wouldn't have been as good as you at farming. And I said, oh my God, that's the first time you've ever said that. I've been now farming 10 years. So I hopefully know something more than my brother who's done it none. But I do know that it's he did my brother did work on the farm for much more time than me. Like he didn't for university and stuff.
Mm,
He worked on the farm while I when I in holiday jobs when you're at university, my jobs weren't
mm,
working on the farm. They
yeah,
told you
okay.
I worked in the body shop and stuff, so it's just rubbish at that.
The Body Shop's a real, when you hear the Body Shop now, it's a real kind of 90s reference, isn't it, really? It's like,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
it's still in Bridgend, McCarthigan. It looks a bit smarter than when I worked there.
yeah.
Yeah, it was it was good. I told I going to tell you the story again that I've told you about me doing makeovers on the body shop because I don't ever wear makeup. I don't think I ever have. But obviously, if you work at the body shop, one of your jobs is to do makeovers. So I remember going for the job interview and someone saying, "Can you do this?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'm sure it's just coloring. It can't be that difficult." So they shove you in front of a video for 20 minutes and then say, "Okay, this is what you can do." And they give you all this sort of different colors of all the, you had meant to match these to people's eyes and stuff. It's like, oh, it's a lot of information. And then because I was working at a outlet, what happens in outlets is they don't have all the range. So the only colors I had was purple and orange.
Oh my God.
Fundamentally, I spent like 6 months or however long I was working in the body shop, like just coloring people in purple and orange. And like so and like I think the people were okay with it. They were very polite, but I had lots of occasions when I was squeezing the stuff and it just covered my face in purple and stuff, and I just wasn't a natural never was never naturally very good at it. So but I'm sure that set me up for farming completely.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
Mm.
So when you came back to the farm, what did it look like then? What's happening at the
My
farm then?
dad always had the farm as quite complicated. We've definitely complicated it more, but it was a beef enterprise over a number of different tenancies. We had a number of tenancies over at in near Cardiff, so it's about a half an hour drive away. With a lot of cattle, had a lot of sheep, and arable. The arable was in agri-environmental scheme, so the yield was
Hmm.
pretty poor. Um, Although Dad loves telling me that how it was brilliant just before I got home, and I've never managed to hit how brilliant it was, and I've never hit any of those made-up yields I've never seen. So I used to get this. Oh, okay, good, Dad. I didn't see that when I came home,
Mm.
but there's amazing yields I never hit. But so we had arable, a beef, sheep. He also had a butchery. Selling direct to the customers, which was not making any money. And the shop was open all the time. So we'd all be covered in just rubbish and having to, like, what farming's like, having to serve people when you're just literally covered in, placenta because you just run around. It was not particularly practical and everyone trying to do everything. He had quite a lot of people working for him.
Mm.
So I came in the middle of all that, and because it was so complicated, what it was actually quite helpful because I could just take a whole chunk of it and he wouldn't even notice. So I just managed all that and do other bits of it as long as I went and ran after sheep whenever they went away. So I could actually take sections at a time.
Yeah.
So I managed to learn on the job quite a lot. So that is quite a useful because it was so complicated. I don't think he ever got overly protected because he was completely overworked, I think, truthfully. So,
Yeah. It
yeah.
was quite a very diverse business then.
Yeah, I think he probably would disagree, but he's definitely on some sort of spectrum of like
Yeah.
craziness, in a cool way. And he just likes he complicates a lot of things. So I wouldn't say it was massively successful, although he was very good at getting grants. I mean, the BPS at that point was a lot, so that was very helpful. It's
Mm.
gone down. He was getting 300,000, and I am now getting 23.
Hmm.
So I've had a bit of a gap on the
Yeah.
so, which I think ethically I think it might not be 300, it could be 200. It was up there on the a
Mm.
lot. I think ethically we shouldn't have been having that much.
Hmm.
So I'm sort of okay with it. But Jesus, if I had someone gave me an option and said, "Do you want that much money?" I'd be like, "Yep, yep, I do." So
Yeah.
it would it would help things a lot. I don't know. I'm not sure about but it was working for him. But I think he's very pleased I came home. And I managed to prop up a number of different things.
So what was the first thing that you really kind of got your teeth into?
I think I did the shop for a bit. So I started monthly meat boxes. So that was I'd seen someone speak about how it's great that people like buying expensive meat direct from the farm, but they only do it at Easter and Christmas, and then
Mm,
you can never get the carcass to balance. And we had an awful lot of burgers and processed meat. So I looked at selling direct to restaurants, and I looked at signing people up for a regular monthly meat box. And then people can actually buy all their meat they need for that month. And then so if you have people buying 30 quid a month off you of meat, actually it sort of ties them in and they feel like it's your farm and
yeah.
they're on your side. So that worked quite well. And I was driving around the Vale delivering to power wash the truck to make it a bit cleaner. So I was doing that. I also did that. That's quite a good thing to do, actually, if you're a small child, because you have the child in the truck with you. And then I could also do it when I was pregnant with the number two as well. So that was quite practical. I also just had to do all the other jobs that, like driving around in circles and tractors, getting stuff in the ground, and lambing. I couldn't do lambing when I was pregnant, but amazingly, Graham stepped in and did the lambing, which obviously is a bit of a shocker because he's not from farming family at all. So both our kids are born in March, which is when we're lambing. So he had a number of years where he's just like, "Oh my God, you're pregnant," and or you're giving birth. So we had to do it. So that was quite good. Um, yeah, so I've got more into the arable possibly and the cattle later on possibly. I do like the cattle a lot. I That's probably my favorite. Oh, we've
Is it?
also got pigs as well. Forgot that major thing that we've got going on. So
Did you get I guess it because your dad had already been doing some direct selling and had the butchery. Did you? I guess you already had quite a strong customer base. Was it easy to get? No,
no.
was it easy to
Well,
get that buy-in with people with a monthly subscription or?
It's still difficult. Like you see a lot of people telling me that you should always do direct selling.
Yeah.
And I find it's continually difficult because
Mm,
we're not in the Cotswolds.
yeah.
We're in Gavin and Stacey land.
Yeah.
Um, so there's only going to be a certain amount of people in the area who can afford to eat our meat, and that's it really. And I think at that, and when I first came home, we were delivering around the UK. And if you deliver around the UK, 1 in 5 of your really expensive meat parcels goes missing.
Mm,
So therefore, all your profit disappears because you've either pay them back or
mm,
it has to get there in the right time. It's just painful. So I did stop delivering nationally, not internationally, because that doesn't make sense.
mm,
And it is heartbreaking. So you spend all this time, you know, from the animal's baby all the way through, and then it gets lost or it gets
mm,
delivered to a bin or something dreadful. And that happens a lot.
mm.
So I don't know. Direct selling is challenging. It's by all the people who do all the talking and not the farming. They all think it's great.
Yeah.
But the actual people who do the selling, I think if you ask a lot of people, if you're a farmer and you're selling, it's a lot. So whether I would recommend someone else doing it, I don't know. We are currently doing it, um, and I have been doing it for a long time now. But whether it's a good idea, I don't know. Ask me next year. We'll see what happens. So,
I think you've raised a really interesting point there because you and I, well, not only are our farming like we're both tenant farmers, both farming 2 units. You farm 5 6 minutes from Bridgend, I farm 5 6 minutes from Wrexham, both form post-industrial towns and
mm,
similar demographics.
yeah,
And we were both at Groundswell a few weeks ago, and we saw each other there. And I listened to quite a lot of talks, and there was one in particular, Gabe Brown, who's this kind of superstar of the regenerative agriculture world from North Dakota in the States, and people were very excited he was there. And I read his book several years ago; it was great.
mm,
But he did a talk, and he talked a lot about food and nutrient-rich food, and that um, that people aren't worried about paying more for their food because it's important to feed their children, and kind of if you build it, they will come type thing, and
yeah,
a guy at the end asked him a question, a very good question, and basically said, I think he was from a similar kind of area to us, and he said, "I'm not sure that's the case because a lot of people in the UK, are really struggling to make ends meet, and rise of food banks." And Gabe Brown actually didn't answer it very well. He kind of brushed it off and just kind of repeated what he said in his talk. No, no, no. We can produce this expensive food and people will pay for it because they want high quality. And I came away just feeling a little bit disillusioned and a bit irritated, to be honest, because I think
Yeah.
that's quite a prevalent opinion in farming.
Yeah. It's I think it works at certain systems.
Yeah,
If you want to sell into London.
yeah,
If you actually probably are, if you are around London, I would say that's not insane.
mm,
There are lots of wealthy people in London. And they probably, if you build it, they will come. It's probably around the Cotswolds, the same sort of thing.
hmm,
But there you can't, I think it's an unfair thing to oversell it.
mm,
Because especially if someone's starting from scratch and they're like, oh, what should I do? Should I do meat boxes? Blah blah blah. I would say I've seen the most sensible thing I've seen. I can't remember who the guys were, somewhere in North England somewhere, and then they sell the whole cow
mm,
in a box. That's got to be more sensible than doing anything remotely more complicated than that. And I think then you know that you need to sell 13, probably 13 boxes to make a whole cow or something like that. Who gets the fillet? That's the question.
hmm.
It's like get half a fillet steak each or something.
Yeah.
But it's you've got to be really straightforward about it because it's so much work, and people will be okay buying one or two. They'll probably be okay buying it for a year, but then it's about habit and keeping. And Tesco's is so convenient. It's so easy, and you can go and get your toothpaste. And they have everything, and it's easy. And unfortunately, where we are at the moment in our lives, most people are time poor.
Hmm.
And when you're saying, yeah, you can eat all this animal, and if you just cook this for 3 hours and you cook it like this, it'll taste amazing. I mean, lots of people don't have 3 hours. So,
No.
and they also, if you cook something for 3 hours, they actually understand. People in my area will know how much that will cost to have the
Yeah.
oven on for 3 hours. So,
Yeah.
it's a very different conversation you're having. Do I think it's important for everyone to be able to access healthy, good food? And I'm an organic farmer, and I think it do I think everyone should have that option? Yes.
Hmm.
But is it practical? Is it a practical thing to be able to do? I don't know. I'd put a big warning sign on it and just
Mm.
say, I just say for personal sanity, it's definitely worth thinking about it through, and uh, it's not necessarily the right answer for most people. Um, like me and Graham, because Graham does the veg as well, and we do lots of ethical. Graham does all this. It's not me, but he does. We do a veg bag scheme for 6 months of the year, weekly, and then a proportion of those veg bags go to um, food insecure families, which is excellent, and we get
Mm.
lots of funding for that. Don't make any money, probably in minus money on it. So it's ethically amazing, but it's quite exhausting. And we're continually trying to get additional cash. And, if I was like JCB and I could be doing it from sort of a charity perspective, I'd love it. But unless, and I'm not, unfortunately. So it's always continually, we could do with another 10
Yeah.
people buying us off us. And did they exist or no, because they lost their job or blah, 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 blah.
Mm.
Um, so I don't know. I we are lots of people's case studies, but I would love to put a massive warning at the beginning of all these case studies, going, "This
Hmm.
might be insane. Please double check this." Just because we thought this, when someone interviewed me, I was being really positive. So I
Yeah,
don't
but I
know.
think I think I've had similar conversations around this kind of thing with sort of policymakers and civil servants and things, and sometimes, I sometimes won't worry about social media and different, we paint sometimes a very rosy picture can be painted, can't it? And then before you know it, policy's heading in that direction, and I think it's good to talk about the positives of these things, but also that it's grounded in realism, isn't it? Because
Mhm.
it's difficult to make
It,
all.
There's a reason why Tesco's exists,
Yeah,
because they
yeah,
obviously have done. Everyone loves hating Tesco's, or all the supermarkets, but
yeah,
truthfully, they do a really good job.
yeah.
They're a very good job at feeding lots of people for quite cheap. They
Hmm.
probably don't make loads of money on the meat. Like no one's making money on the meat, I don't think.
No,
Um, like we'd love to blame them and say they're making tons of money, but I bet they're making tons of money on the electrics, or they're making tons of money when they're shipping. It's the more highly processed stuff.
mm.
It's not the meat. It's not the it's more like we unfortunately we are the bottom of the food chain. It's very similar to mining, and like so we understand that mining's
Yeah,
not good. Around in Wales, we've got really high unemployment from where we are,
yeah,
and unfortunately, the mining stopped having the funding with Thatcher 40 years ago, and we're in the situation now that farming is stopping having the funding, and the knowledge needs to be there that if there is decisions that we're going to stop supporting farmers and start supporting ambulances more, which is what you're fundamentally arguing about, um, it needs to be made aware that there will be unemployment issues, and that I don't think is talked about enough. But it's pretty hard. No politician's going to say that
no,
outright. So
no.
it's a challenge, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I
But
think a
no,
lot. I think a lot about that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Those comparisons. I've been thinking a lot about it lately.
I think we're in an interesting situation in Wales just because we've had a Labour government for such a long time, and they genuinely trying to do the right thing. I think
Mm.
I wouldn't say they're evil, possibly a little. I don't think they're evil at all.
No.
I think they're genuinely trying to do the right thing, and there's a lot of poverty in Wales, um, and we haven't got mass amounts of industry, and farming is an industry that possibly needs to be supported
Yeah.
because it's all the goods are there. I just don't think that's clearly communicated enough by NFU. It's and NFU's just give us the money because we're great, and
Mm.
it's not. And I think it needs to be sort of reflected in a different way. So if you give us money, we can be great, and we can support enormous employment and all that sort of thing. Like mixed farming, for example. Mixed farming obviously employs more people. It's obviously got massive uh, public goods in terms of nature.
Yep.
More people on the farm, more people getting jobs, more people seeing stuff. And I'm going to use the quote that my granny was used to say, which is everything in moderation. And I just think that if everything is a little bit of everything, it works a lot better.
Yeah.
It's complicated than.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I spend too much time on a tractor thinking about this kind of stuff. But the way I see it going is there's going to be far more part-time farmers, and then far more super farms or industrial, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah,
farming multiple. Well, it's already going in that direction, certainly in this
yeah,
part of the world.
yeah,
And there's pros and cons to that, and things have always changed, and there's always been consolidation with
yeah,
farming businesses. But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more part-time farmers
yeah,
because people or people diversifying heavily into non-farming activities or getting money from outside farming to keep going.
yeah.
But
I think that is true. I think we are. I think we're there as well. I think
mm,
that's 100% accurate. So,
yeah. Has the farm always been organic? Was it organic? Did your dad
um,
take it in that direction
yeah,
or?
Dad took it organic in 1998. So
Okay.
it takes 2 years to go organic. So we were properly organic in 2000. He did it because he followed the money, um, and there was quite significant grants at that time to go
Yeah.
organic. Um, he's so he definitely did it for the money, but weirdly, I don't know whether I would um, have come back if we weren't organic.
Mm,
I'm not a big fan of spraying, and I don't like asking guys or anyone who's working for me to do a job that I don't want to do.
hmm.
I don't like spraying, so I don't like we've put on. We were doing a trial last year, and I had to put on some organic fertilizer. So I just put it on in our very rusty fertilizer spreader that I normally use to spread grass seed normally. But I whacked it in there, and I just got even the stone dust had got all over me, and I just thought, I don't think this is sound.
Mm,
So I also don't like the idea of putting seed in the ground that you've got to wear gloves. I understand why you need to wear gloves. Um, so, and I don't like, I just think it's probably a bit airy fairy, but I don't, I really believe that if I'm not okay doing it, and if I'm doing this for the general public and someone who didn't know anything about farming, and I
Mm.
can't stand in front of it and go, this is why I'm doing it, and they don't go, ugh.
Mm.
And I just think it's not sound. And I think, unfortunately, I don't like criticizing other farmers because I'm sure there's always a reason for everything. But I really don't like the idea of putting seed in the ground that's got pre-emergent stuff on it. And I just think uh, it's very important to be straightforward. This is
Yeah.
all the ethics thing. Do I make enough money? No way being organic. So like this is just completely, it's like it's all the ethics. Like, yeah, it's a great idea. So sound. But would it is it do you make more money? You not make enough money? Yes. So I don't know. Again, would I recommend anyone going organic? No. So
Yeah, but you've got to be true to yourself, haven't you?
yeah, but so we were already organic, so I never had to make, it's more difficult to make the decisions to come in or
Yeah.
go out. And the degree I did when I was pregnant, actually, with number two, I did a distance learning degree in Aberystwyth. No, not Aberystwyth, in Aberdeen, Scotland, wrong country. Glad I was
Yeah.
concentrating. So I did distance learning up in Scotland, and it was the masters in organic farming because it was the only one they had in the
Yeah,
UK
cool.
10 years ago. So I did the degree in organic farming. So it gave me quite a good overview of the farming as a whole. The one thing I think organic farming does better than more conventional farming is it looks at the whole farm as a one system
Yeah.
rather than individual enterprises.
Yeah.
Because lots of farmers can get lost in one enterprise and they can go, oh, my beef's not making any money, but my arable's making loads of money, or whatever way around it is. And therefore, and you get some advisor in and they go, just stop the beef, it's not making any money. So you stop the beef, and then you want to poo. Oh, and then my arable yields go down. Oh, why have my arable yields go down? Oh, I've just lost 200 tons of poo. Like this, so it's that sort of knowledge that I think sometimes lacked is lacking in the experts who come and tell you how you're really good at losing money in different ways. Um, I think organic farming forces you to look at it as a whole. I had the uh, the guy coming to service my combine, and he's always really good at having a chat. And he was talking to me because I was saying about I had to change this field because I had too much of a high weed burden, and I was going to change going into this crop or whichever crop I was going into. And he said, "Oh, most farmers don't look at that sort of detail. They just go right next year it's doing this or this."
Yeah.
And I do find that and have you have when you're organic, you have to look at that detail and you
Mm.
have to manage each field probably on its own merits, which I don't think you do normally, um, because everyone asks you, "Oh, what's your rotation?" And truthfully, each field has got its own different rotation
Yeah.
because each field is different. And the old guys who planted all the fields or planted all the hedges way back when, they did it for a reason. They
Yeah.
put hedges in for a particular reason because this is a more clay field than that one, and that's harder to plow and all that sort
Mm.
of thing. And you don't want to lose that knowledge because it is actually they didn't just whack it in there for no reason. They definitely put it there along that line because suddenly the horse found it more difficult to pull the plough. And it's quite useful to remember that, which is quite handy.
Yeah. What's the biggest challenge with weed burden wise? What is there anything you have a particular issue with?
Yeah, so organically, the one that looks the worst is Charlock, which is
Yeah.
yellow. Looks so you have people walking through your oat field going, "Are you growing Aussie rape?" Nope, no, no. But so that can look pretty dreadful. I think historically, I'm going to get the dates wrong, but in the 1920s, when they first started inventing the sprays, the first spray they invented it was to knock out the Charlock.
Is
So
that
it's very,
right?
yeah, so it's a very
Mm.
cheap, very easy spray.
Mm.
We're probably back there. Um, you can knock it out if you have a good year and you could do a stale seedbed, if you have enough time. Uh, but the seed stays in the ground a very long time. So even if you have, say, 4 years of grass clover and then you plough it up again, you can still have a yellow field, which is a bit soul destroying sometimes. It, the guys who work for me, like, oh, it's probably came in on the seed. I'm like, no, it probably didn't. just in our field. I'd love to blame the seed, but it's probably not the seed's fault.
Do you keep all the grain for the livestock, or do you sell
Uh,
any?
yeah, so I do I keep a significant proportion, and that goes into my pigs for the shop,
Yeah.
pregnant ewes, and the fat cattle. The fat cattle get about 2 to 3 kilos a head, um, so they're not on enormous amounts of grain, but on a little bit. And then I sell my oats to Organic Arable, and they sell theirs, they're a co-op of organic
Mm,
farmers, and they sell into Whites, which is porridge oats, so that's really nice. So
yeah,
at Groundswell, we went and saw Whites, and they gave me some free porridge, which always makes me happy, like
that's
packet
nice.
porridge. So, and I like knowing that my oats are going somewhere that's really tangible.
Yeah.
Um, I find them really straightforward to deal with, and they tell me that I've got too much admixture or whatever. But I feel a lot happier that I'm selling it to a thing, and I know what cut everyone's getting, and it's not a wheeler dealer type relationship. I also sell a tiny small amount, like a couple of tons, not very much, of heritage wheat to mills in West Wales. There's a lady called Emma who
Yeah,
I sell to, and we get and then she mills the wheat and we get it back, and we sell the flour in the shop, and that's a nice story.
that's really cool.
Most expensive flour in the world, obviously.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Do you drive the combine? Are you on the combine yourself?
Yeah, yes, I do. I didn't when I first came home. My dad didn't drive the combine. We always had guys who worked for us who drove the combine. And then at a change of staff about um 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And so a very long-term member of staff left, and I was like, oh, I was a bit mortified by it, because I quite like managing people. Well, not badly, but obviously, change of staff. So I had to suddenly increase my knowledge on tractors of all types. And you've heard me rant about it before. I think lots of women are very good on the academic and the advisory side, and actually the practicalities of driving tractor is seen as quite a worrying thing.
Hmm.
Um, I've been I don't I've been continually told I'm a shit driver like since the beginning of day dot. And truthfully, do you know what? I probably am because it took me 4 times to pass my driving test. I'm not naturally a good driver. But the point I'm trying to say is that actually you don't have to be naturally a good driver to
No.
drive the combine. You have to drive it. So you also have to understand that you don't drive it into a hedge. That would be ideal.
Mm.
And you have to be able to drive. So since since I've had to suddenly take an interest in tractors, and truthfully, I'm spending the bloody money on enormously expensive things anyway. So
Yeah.
I really need to understand what I'm spending the money on, or if something's broken, what is actually broken. And I think you get a better knowledge of the soil and traveling on the soil and the whole process if you get a basic knowledge of tractors. And I really think it's really important to get women upskilled in tractors because Ground School was amazing. There were so many women. I loved it,
Mm.
obviously. It was just absolutely fantastic. But so many women still say, I said, oh, do you drive the tractor? No, my brother drives the
Mm.
tractor. So why don't you drive the tractor? Oh, I don't feel comfortable. I don't want to. And uh, what I like to say is you actually just have to be uncomfortable. So you actually have to put yourself in the situation and go, this is absolutely terrifying. Oh my God, why am I doing this to myself? But unless you've actually done it uh, quite a few times, then actually it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a lot of young people working for me on the farm, and boys and girls the same age. Maybe sometimes the girls are a bit older. So, and the boys sit in the kit, drive it completely fine, and hit things. Great. The girls
That's male
don't
confidence there, isn't it?
don't want
That's
to sit in there, and then
yeah.
and I get them in there. They drive really slowly. They never hit anything.
Yeah.
So I and they just. But I really got to do a lot of but because they feel so uncomfortable doing it, that if
Yeah.
there's a choice, if I unless I go, you drive that kit for the next 3 weeks, the boys will just go, I'll do it. And they just take over and they do
Mm.
it. And they've then suddenly got 3 weeks experience of driving the kit and they've hit something, but they've actually got 3 weeks experience and it starts very young. So I don't know why. It's probably someone clever could do a left brain, right brain thing, but uh, they just need to do. Oh, all that has to happen is I have to just get the girls to just go, I don't care. So you're just going to drive this tractor. So I had a lovely girl who worked for me for a very long time. She's now working. She's in her third year at Harper. She's now decided she likes dairy, but she worked for me for ages, and I just had to force her to drive tractors. And I remember I said, Evie, the worst thing that can happen, okay, is you get it completely in the wrong place, and you can't do anything about it. All you're going to have to do is walk up to the farm, find me, and then we're going to have to sort it out. So a couple of times, like the problem with farming is we're always so stressed all the time.
Yeah.
Everything we need to do is immediate.
Yeah.
And I just had to go, actually, she's learning, and I really do want her to learn how to do this.
Hmm.
So I'd walked down and she'd got the tractor, whatever, stuck right next to a tree, like with an inch, and not me doing that. Oh, it's fine.
We've all been there, haven't
Yeah,
we? We've
exactly.
all,
And I was like, Evie, fundamentally, you drove it into this position. Okay, so I'm
yeah.
sure we can get it out. You just need to not panic. And we did get it out. And now she's had experience. And then she just did the silage on her last farm. Because she's had the
Mm.
experience to be able to do it. So I'd love to get more women doing it. If someone, if I didn't have to do all this farming, I'd like to start like some woman farming tractor course. But that's on my,
Yeah.
some to
Well,
have.
I gave my 13-year-old daughter her first tractor driving lesson the other day,
Brilliant.
and she already knows it all. She knows it
Yeah.
all, and I know nothing. So either she's just the typical 13-year-old, or yeah,
I
she's
know she
already
sounds brilliant. That's exactly what you want. You want her just to keep going and just not lose confidence and just go.
yeah.
And that's really good.
Yes,
That's your thing,
it was
calm.
very
And
stressful, but yeah,
yeah,
but
did she?
she's
It's getting the spatial awareness right. That's the.
yeah.
But if you're in a big field and if she's just like cultivating it, you can't really
Oh,
tell.
we were just rolling some stubble turnips in, so it was a good start for her. But yeah, she enjoyed it. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
think it's quite like what's quite fun about tractors is, that you don't really realize is they are so simple. It doesn't matter what size they are.
yeah,
So like it's just with the hydraulics on the pipes on the back, and unless you actually have to be put yourself in the situation where you're doing the driving the tractors, um, and suddenly you understand what all these pipes are doing, and you don't like no one ever told me like I
mm.
had to somehow get this knowledge by osmosis
Osmosis. Yeah, yeah,
of all the pipes are doing all
yeah,
this thing.
yeah,
And it doesn't matter which hydraulic pipes link to which and all that sort of thing. And I just thought, why everyone just goes, oh, this is just how it works. It's like, oh,
yeah, yeah. But
um,
that goes back to that busyness thing, doesn't it? No one's
yeah,
got time to explain, have they?
no, none. And I just think it was so that's and I once I've learned it, I thought, God, this is not complicated. This needs to be common. This needs to be more common sense. And lots of the girls still have the problems in when they go to college and stuff. And they are slightly nervous about it. So all they go to the tractor course, and the teacher goes, "So, well, what tractor have you got home, and what have you been driving?" So that's a helpful start.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
really
yeah,
good. And the
yeah.
girl's like, "I haven't driven anything," so it's you're already on the back foot. So it's something like I'd love to. There's some really like they're so clever tractors now, and it's just knowing which button to press, and then
For
just not
sure.
complicated. But combines are a bit more complicated, but they're really interesting. Uh, I learned to drive a combine 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and Brian, who's the guy who comes and services it, he taught me how to drive it, and I'd proceeded to read the whole manual before he came. So I'd read the whole manual, which he number one thought was insane, because I'd read the whole manual and he was teaching me and Graham. Graham hadn't read the manual at all. Graham just said he wanted an overview. This is a combine.
That'd be like me. Yeah.
So I'd read the whole manual and they said, what about this button, that button, and all this sort of thing, and which is that, how does that work? And he'd gone, he's like, you haven't got that part on the combine, that doesn't exist on the combine. So
Yeah.
but it made me a lot more comfortable. And my previous guys who'd previously worked for me, I said, oh, shouldn't you just read the manual beforehand? And he'd gone, no one reads the manual. I was like, okay, I think that's wrong.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if I've ever read the Combine manual. I think I've looked at it, but I don't think I've read it. But
Quite
yeah.
useful
I
sometimes,
probably should. Maybe I will.
especially
Maybe
when the
I'll.
things flash.
Yeah, yeah. I just bang the screen. Yeah. Okay. What do we people listening to this will have realized you are good at communication. You are a natural communicator. You and I have talked about this before. I often feel the way that we communicate as an industry,
Mm,
we often get it wrong. It's often very passive aggressive and defensive, and
yeah,
it's something I'm sort of quite interested in and
yeah.
have written a bit about. But what do you think we get wrong, and what could we do better?
Um, I think I think we need to give ourselves time to communicate. I did do Anna Jones's Just Farmers course.
Yeah,
She's really clever.
yeah.
And she understands, obviously, because she's a journalist, she understands how to communicate, and she has done that really well. So I would, first of all, if someone wanted watching this and wants to be better at communication, do that course. She's amazing. So that would be like an easy win. But I think um, NFU and the FUW, all the unions, they've got a challenge. They're defending a lot of people, and unless they are defending exactly what you want, then you think they're doing it wrong.
Hmm.
So if they say, "Oh, we're doing this really well," and as a farmer you think they're wrong, I think it's quite a hard job.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but truthfully, they're the only ones who've got the time to communicate. So we do think that they are communicating wrong, but they are the only ones communicating. So I don't know. I think is it better to talk about this a bit than not at all? Then I think that is right. But we do spend an awful long time complaining, and uh, sometimes we're complaining about really technical, specific
Mm.
things that the general public no idea
Mm.
and no idea what we're talking about. So I don't know. I think there's so much stuff going on in people's lives that that unless we're talking about a very specific story with a very specific person or a very specific butterfly, then I think everything can be lost in general terms. That's that's what I think we should do better. Just to be more specific, like organic farming, I think is great. Uh, but there's 250 rules to follow to be an organic farmer. So explaining why organic farming is great because I follow this rule book of 250 words is insane.
Yeah.
However, organic farming is great because it means we've got hares on the farm and we've
Mm.
got this rare mushroom and we've got this rare butterfly. Oh, oh, and I've also found this really rare weed. Oh, and it's this color and it's got a little yellow flower on it. Oh, I like yellow flowers. So,
Yeah.
like that's a much easier way, and it's actually got an end result. While saying, and that's in the same in all times of farming. So I'm a regenerative farmer. What? That doesn't mean anything. And it's always good to talk to people who are not farmers because then they go, actually, I've never heard the word regenerative. And while we're all like tying
Yeah.
ourselves in knots,
Yeah. Arguing about what it means.
yeah. And
Yeah.
like I don't even know what you're talking about. So it's like it's trying to get out of the bubble and not being stuck in it, I think is quite helpful. Um,
Yeah.
just remember that it's normal people who don't know anything about farming. Like they don't know what arable is. So
Yeah.
it's getting that right.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
You've also got involved with some wider industry, as if you haven't got enough to do. You've got involved with some wider industry, wider agricultural industry roles.
Mm.
Tell us about some of those and why you decided to do that. Because I get the impression that would have been putting yourself quite out your comfort zone doing that kind of stuff, would it?
Yeah, I did. Ah, it was you. Like, you remember we did a podcast for
Nature Friendly
Nature
Farming
Friendly
Network.
Farming, and I
That's
was
right.
on that. I was on that steering group
Yeah.
because Reese, who's in charge of it, asked me.
Yeah.
So I said yes to that, and then you did that podcast with Ben
That's
and
right.
me, and I think I hadn't. I think I started following it, or you promoted the Oxford Farming Conference, which, truthfully, I'd never really saw myself in that world.
You and
Uh,
me both.
Uh, so I did the Inspire program, which was great. It was really interesting. Loads of fantastic people. And we did, and at that year was COVID year. And Sarah Bell was speaking at Oxford Farm Conference, and I um she was speaking and I thought, oh my God, it's a female farmer. This is so exciting. And she was arable and she spoke incredibly well, which I
Yeah.
think the only bit I can remember really was she spoke about how everyone thinks farming's really glamorous, but they don't understand how much you spend cleaning drains. I'm like, I
Yeah.
do spend a lot of time cleaning drains. So I remember saying that. So I think I sent her a message. I think it's message to everyone, but I sent her a WhatsApp. No, not can't be WhatsApp. It must have been a message on LinkedIn, going really glad to see a female farmer taking up space. I really appreciate it. And then she looked at my LinkedIn. Actually, I didn't have a LinkedIn profile before I started Oxford Farming Conference. Someone said that you should have one of those. And so she looked at my LinkedIn profile and she said, "Why don't you look at industry roles?" And do you know what? I didn't know what industry role was, so I just said, "Okay, I'm interested in industry roles." And so she sort of signposted me to these roles, and that's why I applied and I got into the AHDB one. And at that time in my life, I was organic, and I found it quite interesting. But I'd been to a lot of organic conferences, and I was probably a little bit bored of everyone saying how great everyone else is.
Yeah.
And you can get yourself in a bubble, and it's really quite boring. So it just everyone talking to everyone else who has the same views. You don't get any sort of knowledge. And I wanted to put myself in the situation where am I right being an organic farmer? I wanted to get more knowledge about conventional farming, and I wanted to see where conventional farming was going. Um, and uh, luckily, conventional farming and organic farming, truthfully, are probably doing that.
Mm.
Like conventional farming is changing, and
Mm.
if it wasn't the case 15 years ago, everyone was like, "No, organic's dreadful. We spray everything." But it's definitely changing, and the world is changing, and it's a very interesting time to be in that situation, and just to ask the questions that to give alternative views and to get other people's alternative views. Because some of the farmers I've met along the right road, they probably all think I'm completely crazy, but they all are quite big, quite English. They just have a different outlook on things, but that you can still learn from people. So
Yeah, for sure. And it's really important to have those a diversity of voices and systems in the room, isn't it? I think more than
yes,
ever.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Obviously, I'm probably I if I'm feeling tired, someone said, "Oh, so what do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm a female farmer. I'm Welsh and I'm organic, so I tick all those boxes. That's why I'm here." So they were like, "That's not true." I said, "Well, it possibly is a little bit true."
Yeah, yeah. On yeah, those boards in farming and kind of leadership roles, I guess it's slow change, isn't it? They're a lot more diverse than they were even 5 years ago, and I guess we're getting there, but we've still got a long way to go, haven't we? In terms of if I certainly think back to when I was I don't know when I first left university, all those guys, it was just all middle-aged men,
Yeah,
and it has changed a bit, but yeah,
it's not. It's interesting. Like there's a book called Rebel Ideas, and that book um, gives a very clear reasoning on why it's good to have diverse boards. Because
mm,
I genuinely think it's a good idea having diverse boards, and diverse voices in the room in all situations. Because you tend to get a better answer, but I could never academically argue it because
no,
of there's always the question of well, truthfully, you should have the best candidate. And the idea is that actually the best candidate is entirely from the viewpoint of the person who's assessing what is best.
yeah,
And I did all think all this, but I didn't have any real life examples where you can actually prove it. And this book covers them, yay! So it covers them really quite explicitly, and why it's good not to have echo chambers and why it's important to have different opinions. And it's it covers a lot of stuff. It covers stuff in like 9/11 and why did it happen and why and everyone in America in the CIA were all male Protestant intelligent men. Like not even Catholic, like they were just white Protestant men, and that was it. And they just didn't have any sort of diversity of thought. And it's really interesting to get those academic arguments out there because it does first of all, probably reassures me that when I'm in this room and I am different, it is quite useful to know actually technically they do need alternative views
Yeah.
because it's a risk reduction on any organization.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely
quite
agree.
useful.
I will check that out. Rebel Ideas. I'll
It's
just
oh my
write
God,
that
it's
down.
really good. It's one to listen to in the combine. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
Um,
Re-
my sister-in-law recommended it, and she's sort of an academic. And now I quote bits at her, and she said, "Polly, you've listened to it like 10, 20 times. I have no idea what you're talking about."
No, I'll definitely read it. I'll let you know how I get on with it. Just before we start to wrap things up, what do you love the most about farming? You know, you've been back into this world for quite a while now. What's the thing that kind of, I don't know, thing that gets you out of bed in the morning about it?
There's no other job when you're sorry. There's no other job when you're able to shepherd. I love shepherding. I really enjoy it, and we're in a very beautiful area. So shepherding, even when it's raining, is really quite a nice thing to do. Um, it's probably the least profitable thing to do, and I'm sure it's smashed by anyone. But God, it's a really lovely thing to be able to do, and then you to be able to walk the crops and to be able to see, look at the grass growing and connect with the seasons. Um, and I love having that as my job. Like that's a fantastic thing to do, and I think it's a privilege to be a farmer, but it's not a privilege to do all the stuff that we do when we're farmers. But
Going back to those drains.
yeah, but chefing I really love, and I do think that when I'm having a really rubbish day and I'm driving around and I'm thinking actually there's what else am I going to be doing? I'd be sitting writing a report about nothing. Um, this is much more fun.
There's
Uh,
something timeless about it, isn't there, I suppose?
yeah, yeah,
Going
it's
back through
nice.
the generations. But
Yeah, yeah.
all right. Okay. We both need to get combining, so we'll wrap this up with the five hard-hitting questions, traditional questions. What's the best gig you've ever been to?
I'm not very good on gigs, but I went to the Scissor Sisters concert before they were famous when I was at
Oh,
university.
did you? In
Yeah,
Edinburgh? Cool.
in Edinburgh, and that was I had two friends who invited us for free. It mated me and another friend, and me and Michelle didn't quite realize how cool it was, so we were late. But it was a fantastic conference. It was a fantastic dancing. It was brilliant. They were very cool.
I'll bet. I'll bet. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
And I think it's probably what I said earlier from my granny, which is everything in moderation. And I bore my children with that all the
Yeah.
time. So you can have a little bit of chocolate, but you can't have loads. I don't do that myself, but
Yeah.
do what I say, not what I do.
What's the best book you've ever read?
Uh, see, the Rebel Ideas one is I read quite a lot all the time. Is one that's in my front of my head at the moment. But there's another one that is very good for managing people, which is Surrounded by Idiots. Have I recommended that one to you before? That's really
I
funny.
think you have,
It's a
yeah.
bad title, but it puts people in different categories of colors, and it enables you to see why the person isn't doing exactly what you want them to do,
Mm,
and to understand that it doesn't matter what you say, it only matters what they hear.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it's trying to understand what their motivations are, and I found that very, very helpful. Um,
I might recommend that to my dad to read. Yeah. If you could meet any historical figure, who would it be and why?
I I wanted to say something really clever, like Eve Balfour, who's like a female organic
Yeah.
farmer. I say, well, I sort of like to meet her, but what I actually would like to meet is I'd like to meet Michelle Obama. That would be really cool, but she's not really historical. But
Uh,
But she
yeah.
definitely, I was thinking anyone in the whole world, she would be really good, but she's not quite historical yet.
No.
So,
Do you think she'll run for
I don't
Democratic?
know. She's very, very inspiring, and
Yeah.
I would love her to. And whenever I see her speak, I just think she's incredibly down to earth and just very personable. Um, and I think that would be amazing to meet her.
Hmm.
Not that she'd have really time.
All right then. Lastly, what's your all-time favorite song?
Oh, well, I do like, oh God, I've written I like lots of songs, but the I really like the one, The Horse with No Name by America.
That's a classic.
I think
Really
it just
good.
gets me up whenever I hear it. And then and that's yeah, so that's my favorite one.
That's a real. I wasn't expecting that. That's yeah, real sort of yeah, 1970s classic.
Yeah,
Awesome.
calming and
Yeah,
just puts everything in a bit of perspective. So yeah, that's quite good.
awesome. Holly, it's been lovely to speak to you. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you are, as we've heard, you're incredibly busy. So yeah, thank you.
Good luck with combining.
Yes, you too. And to everyone listening at home, thanks for all the nice messages and comments we've been getting lately. Very much appreciated. The eagle-eyed or eagle-eared amongst you, eagle-eared, is that your thing? Will and they say I've gone to a fortnightly at the moment because I'm busy with harvest. But bear with me, and hopefully we'll be back to weekly soon. Other than that, if you could like, share, rate, review, all that jazz, massive help. Thanks for listening. Hope to see you next time. I've been Will Evans. This has been Rock and Roll Farming. Thank you and good night.